worry about my lifestyle. I'm the new thing with a bright smile. Catch me when I'm out in public, always show them love, and I know they love it. Give you a reason to love me this season. I'm taking my chances, I hope it enhances my...
Alright, welcome to Romera Records podcast, and today we have on Sam Reeves. How's it going, Sam?
Hello, everybody. It's going great.
Good, good. So I brought you on because basically, as I do with most of the other people I bring on, I pretty much just stalk your Instagram and, and then talk about it.
Yeah.
So, I saw that you do a lot of art, and as you were telling my wife before we came in, you do art. What exactly kind of art have you really been into, and how long have you been doing it?
So I've always been, I guess, a creative person. I've drawn since I was little, and I've always been interested in it. But I didn't know if it was like a career path option. And I went to Christian Brothers University, and I went in originally as a computer engineer, and I was going to minor in graphic design, and then I realized that I really enjoyed the arts a lot more than sitting in front of the computer the whole day and stuff like that. So I kind of went over to that area and fell in love with it, just as a release of all the stuff I keep in my head. I don't know. Yeah. And then I graduated college, and I was playing basketball. And I was going to play overseas, and then that didn't work out. And so I needed I went through like a emotional time where I'd never failed a class before. I was like an A/B student my whole life, and I got really depressed and had anxiety issues, and I just really dropped the ball. And it was the last semester of college, so I had to retake it. And then so that time it's kind of weird, like hard to explain, but like it was going to be a summer course, and then the summer course got dropped, so I had to retake it the next semester. So I kind of got out of shape, like wasn't doing as much, trying to work through my emotional stuff. And then when I started the class, it was a very personal, like it was my senior thesis is what I was doing, and it was like a personal thing, and it was the first time I did like drawing art instead of graphic art. And I felt it was the first time I felt connected to something the way I used to feel about basketball. So I was like, okay, I think it's time for me to go in a different direction. So, yeah. So
when you were playing basketball, how much did that like take away from your time and art? It
was a lot. Like that was my passion. That was my emotional outlet. And it was my identity. Like I identified a lot in basketball. So that was kind of part of the emotional crisis I had, was when I realized basketball was coming to an end, and I couldn't really figure out like what my next step was at that point. That had been who I was for so long. I like didn't know who I was anymore without the sport. So I was very involved in basketball. It was my passion. I've been playing competitively since I was 9, and I was pretty successful. So I guess it was something I learned later, that so many college athletes go through an identity crisis after it ends, because nobody's really prepared for that. You know that it's gonna end, but like you don't really understand.
Oh, you don't want to believe it.
Yeah. So it was just a journey, and I'm thankful for it, because I'm extremely happy where I am now. But it was a very tough little transition.
Well, even that, like there's so few, like, okay, take all the high schools in the world and all the athletes that play. Very small percentage of them go play college ball. And then take that percentage of college players, and very few of them go play at the next level. So just for you to be able to have that thought in your head just puts you at a top tier, because some players, they're playing, they're just there to play.
Right.
And there's a guy that plays for Alabama right now, and Saban, Alabama's head coach, he was talking about how the guy just quit. He was a freshman. He was like Alabama's top recruit, and doesn't show up for class, doesn't show up to practice. And you were putting in all the work, and you were devastated at the fact that you weren't going to be able to continue. and then there's people who aren't even showing up to class
Yeah.
and practice. So it's crazy how much pressure is also put on athletes as well.
Yeah, well, that was part of it, and like, I don't blame anybody,
Mhm.
but I was one of the people they leaned on the team for scoring, and majority of like, I was the top scorer on our basketball team, and I was like the team captain, and it was kind of like, as long as Sam's performing, she's fine. So it was like nobody was really checking to see how I was feeling, and not that anybody should, you know, but
I
like,
think they should.
I know, like, I feel like I'm putting responsibility on somebody else when it was me, like my experience, but I felt like because I was performing well, everybody was like, nothing's wrong. But I was like, I'm a bottler, and I've had to learn how to not bottle everything that I'm, you know,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So did you ever, I guess, not so much trying to like put it on somebody else, but trying to reach out and see if anybody was like going through the same thing or anything like that?
See, I didn't do that until I went through that experience my senior year, where I was like, I failed a class, which was like devastating for me, because I like had a very high GPA in high school. I did well on the ACT. I did well in my college. Like I never struggled academically, so that was like it was hard for me to be like, wow, you really dropped the ball there. And it all kind of came around, like, I don't really know like how heavy or where we're going with this, but I'd experienced like a sexual assault, and I tried to pretend like it didn't happen. And so like I've been like burying that for my freshman year to my senior year.
Okay.
So like that was kind of what happened, was all of that was like trying to come out, and I was trying to like not admit that that had happened to me.
Wow.
So like
that can just trickle down
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah.
And it's very good that you came out of that, because a lot of people they don't come out of that. They
Yeah.
they dig a hole and then they stay in that hole. But for you to be able to actually, you know, acknowledge it and get past it, it's very impressive.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
So
It was a lot of work.
yeah. So after you get done with the basketball and then you start getting into your art, you're, you know, I guess, diving into the art, did you feel like you had, I don't want to say messed up, but do you feel like you left something? Like we only get one life, so did you feel like, you know, dang, I missed that life, or what?
I would say like I'm better now than, I would probably still get emotional if I really started thinking about that. Like, I don't go to the gym, I don't really shoot anymore. I'll play pickup every once in a while, but I don't like put in a lot of time. Whereas that used to kind of be like my like de-stressor, was to just go and get shots up, go and do drills. And I've had a lot of opportunities to coach, and just something like I am not ready to be on the sideline yet. So like when I go and like I'm like, I think I could do this, and then I'm watching other people play and I'm like, I want to be on the floor. And like I know one day that will change, but it's kind of hard for me to do that right now. So it's kind of like I've kind of put basketball to the side, and I love it, passionate about it. I still train people sometimes. Sorry, that was my mom. I thought I hung up. But I still train people sometimes, but it's not something I invest a lot of time in right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, of course, take your time, do what you need to do to get back to that position if that's what you want to do. But as somebody who used to play sports, I love seeing coaches that are super animated and it feels like they want to be right there with you. Those are the best coaches because they're personal. They say a player's coach, people call them, is because you feel like that coach is really interested in what you're doing. They're not just there to get a paycheck and move on to
and that is like, I feel very passionate about it, and it's, yes, I agree. It's like I could go on and on and on. But
we got time. So is there anything that you have been trying to do as far as like I did see you were doing, like were you just with the team or
I worked for a short period of time, but it didn't work out. I've done I've trained high school students, but it's not, I played in Somerville, Tennessee. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's Fayette County. It's like an hour from here, east. And it's a really small town, and when my little sister played basketball too, we played ball together. She was a year below me. And so we had a very successful high school career. Like we took the school to state for the first time ever, 3 years in a row. And yeah, so we have a good relationship with the basketball programs out there. And I will work with a lot of like the girls from my hometown and stuff like that. I have a few Memphis girls that I work with from time to time, but nobody's really been serious enough about it to pursue it, like where they keep going. Like a lot of girls are eventually like, I don't really want to do this. So I guess that comes back to the passion part for me. I struggle, and I don't even know how this is going to sound, but I struggle to really coach and lead people who don't really want to be there because I wanted to be there so bad.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I do that with music. Like if I'm like trying to make music with people, so I try to contact a lot of people just like over Instagram or Twitter or something. And if I can't get like a constant feedback from them, then I'm just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because I have such a passion for that kind of stuff. And if I can't get you on that same level as me, then I'm just like, okay, I need to move on to somebody who's working just as hard as I am. So.
And that's like another thing with like, not even at all college levels, but like at high school levels, you do have a lot of people who are just there for like the team atmosphere. And so just high school girls can just be, an interesting experience.
Yeah. So you said you played at Christian Brothers, right?
Yes.
So that is another thing. Like, I never heard of Christian Brothers. It looks phenomenal. At first I thought it was a high school, and I was like, that's an amazing
There is a high school, but
there is
it's an all-boys school,
Okay.
and it used to be an all-boys college, but I can't remember the exact year. It was maybe like 40, 50 years ago. It switched to co-ed.
Okay.
So that's...
This one is close to, it's like a rock climbing place, the one I'm saying. Is this
Yeah, that's the
university?
high school.
That's the high school?
Yeah, the high school is like probably nicer than the college.
Oh my God. That place looks amazing.
Yeah.
Because I first, again, I thought it was a high school, and I was like, that's an amazing high school. And then I was like, oh, there's a Christian Brothers University.
Yeah.
That's just the university.
The university is off of Central and East Parkway. So like...
Okay. I have no idea where that is.
Yeah.
So...
Midtown.
Little story. Me and Rachel just moved here in April.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Where y'all from?
I'm from Alabama.
Okay.
And she's from Ohio.
Okay.
So I was in the Air Force, and that's where I met her. She was going to school at Minot State, and that's where I was stationed in Minot, North Dakota. So,
Okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, I was seeing that school, I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's really little. We were like 2,000 people enrolled. Like it's little. Like it's smaller than a lot of high schools.
Oh my God. Is it like a private school?
Yeah, it's a private university.
Okay.
It's Division II. We're in the Gulf South Conference, which is a very competitive conference with a lot of like Delta State University. They've been moving everybody around now because I know since I left in 2017, they have new people in the conference and out, so I'm not really sure who all. But I know it's like one of the top ranked conferences in the D2 level.
Oh,
So.
okay. So it's called Christian Brothers, but is it like a Christian school?
It's Lasallian. It's a Lasallian university. School. It's like about serving, kind of like a liberal arts type thing.
Oh, okay.
So.
Gotcha. So it's mainly people who go to that school do like art type.
It's a
majors?
really high-ranked engineering school. That's like kind of what they're known for is the engineering program. There aren't many people in the arts there,
Gotcha.
but there's a lot. I feel like I keep saying there's a lot, but it's a very small school. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's a lot of engineering, majority engineering, business, stuff like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, so I guess let's talk about your art. So
Yes.
with your art, what have you been able to do?
So I'm kind of figuring it all out. I'm doing a lot of reading, a lot of research. Like I was telling Rachel earlier, I have I jump around a lot. I have really bad ADHD, and I like that I can do paintings that are very technical, and then if I get tired of being so like involved, like, you know, like high detail, then I can jump back and do like, you know, like photography, where that's just like a whole different, you know, it's just a different experience. And like I can take a break from something, because I'm really bad about jumping projects.
Right.
My house has to be clean, or I'm not gonna be able to focus on anything, because I'm like, oh wait, let me go do the dishes, and then I'll go do something else, and I'm like, oh wait, let me go fold laundry. So everything has to be kind of in order.
I'm just like that. I'm not a clean freak, but I'm a neat freak.
Yes.
Like things need to be in order.
In order.
Like, I specifically put that keyboard right there, so it's not in the way. But if I want to use it, I can use it.
Yes.
That's right there. So if I want to use it, it's very accessible.
Right, but it's out of the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everything has its place.
Yes.
It might look like it's just there, but it has a reason for it. So when you are going from those different things, did you specifically learn like photography because it dealt with like an art concept, or were you just like?
So I always enjoyed photos in general. Like I was, from a young age, like I always had like a lot of picture books. I really liked, really loved horses when I was little. Like I read like a horse encyclopedia. I really wanted one. My parents were like, that's not happening. So, so I just put all that in that. So I drew horses for a long time. So I've sold a couple horse drawings that, but then I was like, that's not really the direction I want to go in. I'm very, you know, I like philosophy and spirituality and mindfulness and mysticism and like I'm interested in like just all the things. And I just felt like nature, which is also, you know, kind of a part of that, didn't give me the outlet that I wanted. Photography, when I was in school, I took my first photography class and I fell in love with it. I've always been weird about like, I like to take stuff apart and put it back together and try to fix stuff. And so when I was learning about the way the camera worked and like how a DSLR, unlike like a digital camera that you just point and shoot, there's so many little things you have to know to frame the photo right, to make everything look as good as it can look before you put it into the computer. So it was very thought-provoking for me. And so after that, I bought my first camera, and I thought that I had bought like this great camera. And then like I would like it, you know, like several years later, people were like, "What do you use?" And I would tell them, and they're like, "Oh," and like so like it was a Nikon D3200. So like it was a great starter camera, but I just invested in like a Sony A7 III, and it's my baby. It's nice. It's so nice, and I'm still figuring it all out because I know the system runs more similar. Oh gosh, I can't say it. It's more similar to a Canon. So like I bought an Nikon because that's what our class cameras were, so I already knew how to use them. But I'm in love with it. It's amazing, and yeah.
She is not sponsored by.
No, I'm not. No sponsor. I would love one in the future, but.
Yeah, I really want one of those Sonys too. Those are like phenomenal cameras from like I like to just Google people's or you know YouTube people's quality product of whatever they're using. That way I can see what I want to use. And those Sonys. I even contacted what's his name, Carlton Banks. He produces a lot of rap videos and stuff like that. And I was looking at his work, and just the quality of those cameras are phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who also uses like I think he uses Sony. Yeah, I think he uses Sony, but I'm usually using the Canon, and so I was just trying to look at the difference in the two. He told me that he really liked my Canon. I use a T7i, Rebel T7i, and I like it, but I know there's better, and so I just don't know.
You're like always on the pursuit for like
yeah. I just don't know what gap is really better, because the Canon has like this one Mark. I think it's the 5D, and then there's 1D or something like that. I forgot what the names of them are, but some of them are really great for video, and then some of them are just like really great like picture, like picture taking cameras. So it's just hard.
Yeah, it's so much information.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm like getting a grasp on it, and then somebody will ask me a question, I'm like, oh, I have no idea
Yeah.
what that even is. So yeah, it's a lot. I know with like the Sony, I got it for the photography, but then I had somebody who was like, that is they did videography with it, and they're like, you need to try that, and I was like, sure, why not? I'm just feeling it all out. So
have you,
I don't know
have you done work on video?
I've done a little bit, but I've realized that I need a stabilizer. So that's like one of my next purchases, because that thing, it was like going everywhere. I was like, no, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah. So I've been looking at what is it? The Ronin. It's the DJI or something like that. That's a motorized stabilizer. It's about like $700.
Yeah.
It's got like the
one you
handle.
can hold. Yes.
Yeah, it's got a handle like this, and it also has handles like this. So it's got like everything. Then there's another one. God, I can't think. Moza. Moza makes one where it's like just the handle like this.
Yeah.
And you put the camera on top, and it's still motorized, so it'll turn and everything.
Yeah, I feel like that would get tiring.
That one's like $400.
Yeah.
And yeah, you would stiff arm like this.
I worked for one of my college jobs was for a photography company called Grad Images. So we did like college graduations and stuff like that. And let me tell you, when there's like 2,000 graduates and you just have to like sit there and point, like you would be sore the next day. So I'm just thinking about that, and I was like, that sounds terrible, holding a video, trying to video shoot like that. But
well, I would definitely look at that, the Ronin. It's one of those things, again, like we were talking about the light. It had some really great reviews and then like some really bad reviews. Again, for $700 for a stabilizer, I would figure
it would be a pretty nice.
Everything's 5 stars.
People are probably just really picky.
Yeah, I have seen this. God, what is the name of that thing? It's like some sort of ring, and it's just literally looks like an oval, and you can hold it on the sides. Do you ever looked at Peter McKinnon?
It's not ringing a bell.
Look up Peter McKinnon on YouTube. He has a lot of like camera reviews, and he takes great pictures. He even sometimes he'll take people who watch the YouTube videos. They send him in their photos, and he'll Photoshop the photos.
Oh, cool.
Like YouTubing it. He'll show you like what he
what
does.
To do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like
Photoshop blows my mind too. I'll figure something out, and then there's a million other things. Like, I admire the people who really, and it sounds like weird, but there's just like so many drop down menus, and I'll figure out like what 3 of those things do, and there's like still 40, and I'm just, are you ever gonna get there? I don't know.
Which that goes back to, so I'm an automation technician at Owens Corning. I deal with like robots and programming and stuff and coding, stuff like that. Well, that takes up a lot of my time because I can spend, regular 40 hours a week, or I can spend 60 hours there. It's just completely up to me. But then I also do my music on the side. I've got Romera Records as my business, and then I also have just like books I like to read, and I'm just constantly doing stuff. I just bought a new gun. I want to learn about that, so I'm constantly just all over the place. But so when you were thinking about doing the photography, then you got the art. How, again, I know I'm going back to a question, but
sometimes I go off the side and I'm like, I probably didn't even answer that question. So.
I know you left the basketball, kind of in the back burner, but I feel like I've left football in the back of my head. And I actually hit up one of my friends, John Hill. I told him, I was like, dude, when we hit 60, he's a Navy pilot right now. But I told him, I was like, when we hit 60, we're becoming football coaches. I was like, just think about it. We're old, and we're going to be like settled down in a city, and we're just going to create a powerhouse football team.
That would be fun.
So do you feel like, that's what you want to do as far as basketball, like, when you're done with photography, or is it like you want to keep the photography, or you want to keep the art, you want to keep doing that?
I think I will always create on the side. It's something that like I did kind of let go when I was so fully invested in basketball, and it was something I still needed. So I think I will always continue to paint and to create and photograph and all that stuff. But I definitely could see myself, like, I don't know, when I have kids one day, like, if they want me to be their coach. Because, some people are like, some kids didn't like it. My dad was a great coach. So it just depends on the environment, but I definitely could see myself getting back into coaching at some point.
Okay. So I think it's a big deal to invest that kind of time because, you know, if some coaches, they'll coach at a school for like 30 years or something like that. And then other, you know, they move around, they like to move up. Do you think you would want, if you did do that, do you think you would want to, you know, progress and go to like college?
I would definitely want to.
WNBA or
Yes,
something like that?
I would definitely want to do higher level at some point. I feel like I learned a lot. My coaching style, I mean not coaching, my leadership style changed drastically from my freshman year to my senior year.
Okay.
My sister and I played together all the time. My dad always said, you know, she's 5'6", I'm 6'1". So it was like, I'm thankful that y'all did not play the same position or only had one child. We were just very competitive. We would like go at it. Like we probably went way harder than, we just would go hard. And so we were very motivated by aggression, you know, like yelling, stuff like that. And we played, I have 2 male cousins who both played college basketball, so we would all, my sister and I would always play pickup with the guys. So like we had like a different, it was just aggressive. So like I was not the one to be like, hey, you should do it this way. I would like yell. So my coach was like, Sam, like, you know, like you are a really good player. Like I started from my freshman year all the way through. And she was like, but that's not gonna work with everybody. So like she started making me read like leadership books and I didn't like it because I am like kind of aggressive. So like, you know, like I was like, I want to yell, like I want to get this out. Like I'm loud.
Okay.
So I had to really reevaluate the way that I approach things. And was I perfect? No. You could probably find some of my teammates and they'd be like, Sam was mean. But I tried. I really would try to do my best to. And if I stepped on people's toes, you know, like learning to be like, hey, I was wrong. Like, you know, like taking the responsibility and being like, I messed up there and I shouldn't have done that. And like, you know, trying to mend any type of hurt feelings because women are just different.
Yeah.
And you can have one girl who is so motivated by one thing and then another girl who if you yell, she's going to shut down and not be able to like keep doing it. So I think that is also important as a coach to be able to pick up on what motivates each player. And if you can't figure out how to communicate with each person in their way that brings out the best in them, you're probably not going to be that successful as a coach.
That's completely true. I am actually the type of person that if you yell at me, I don't really care what you have to say after that.
Yeah.
But but it's weird because I'm more like you when it comes to dealing with sports. Like with at work, if somebody's doing stupid stuff, then I'm more of a like how I'm talking right now. I'm like, hey, you probably shouldn't have done that. What you should have did was this. But with sports, I'm engaged.
It's a different thing. It's like, it's very, like, I don't know, it's just different when you're out there and there's people, like, you know, in the stands and you can't hear everything. Some yelling is necessary, but not everybody thinks that.
And it's also just getting that emotion out. You feel like when you yell, I think they've done like scientific studies on like when people are like lifting weights and they like grunt and yell, it actually like boosts
the adrenaline. I don't know if it's adrenaline, but it boosts something.
Yeah,
you know,
it boosts your energy and you do more because you're yelling. And that's a pretty crazy thing.
It is.
And for people to like when I see certain athletes like do well, but they're like super calm, like I'm assuming you know who Kawhi Leonard is. Kawhi is a very calm person.
Yes.
Doesn't seem like he shows that emotion. Sometimes he's showing a lot of emotion, but usually he doesn't. But he's one of the best in the game.
I just think about the that last game that they won and how like you could just see it. Like he just like released. It was like he released the whole season and that one moment. So
And trying to get somebody else to understand where you're coming from. So if you're a very energetic type person and when somebody else isn't, it almost frustrates you more that they aren't where you are. So I really enjoy, I guess, just like watching other players like interact and seeing that one like a Russell Westbrook. Like he is very animated, very energetic. When he like people say he tortures rims because when he dunks, like it looks like the rim's about to break. So other players aren't like that. You know, you see. I mean, I think Steph Curry is he can be animated.
Yeah.
But
he seems pretty cool, calm, collected for the most part until something doesn't go his way.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very fun just seeing how humans how they deal with things, and I really wanted to what was it? I think I just wanted to be a coach in. I guess just like any kind of guy sport, but then also do female sports because I like to see the interaction of females. So I was watching like a volleyball game yesterday. It was Stanford versus Nebraska, and which volleyball is crazy because they do 1 versus 2 like all the time. That doesn't happen in like football. Football, you will rarely see 1 versus 2 or 3 versus 4 during the season.
Right.
Like, tomorrow, Georgia Notre Dame play, and that's like 3 versus 9, but that doesn't happen all the time. But anyway, so just watching how the players interact in a volleyball game and for females, and then also how the coach has to interact. I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, that is the coach probably looked late 30s, early 40s. So I'm like, that's a late 30s, early 40-year-old man having to deal with these 19, 20-year-old girls. Like that's got to be an emotional roller coaster.
Well, I just think like with women in general, like when it comes to basketball, I think that women play much more fundamental. I think that if you can get a group of girls that play well together and empathize with each other and know each other well, there is a much more team effort involved than what you will see from a lot of male, like kind of run and gun type basketball. You know, like it's very like fundamental, you know? And with the sports in general, I feel like women are much more likely to sacrifice their ego for the betterment of the team.
Really?
Yes. Than what I've noticed. Like, whereas like the men just try to figure out how to get all their egos to work together. The women are like, I will sacrifice mine so that we can all succeed. I just think women in general are very aware that it's bigger than them. I think like being biologically that we are mothers and nurturers. It's like a thing with that.
You have a more family aspect to it. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like to figure out the difference between guys and girls as far as like how they play. But everybody talks about men and women as far as like in their sports, and people say the female athletes aren't as interesting to watch because they can't do the same stuff that guys do. But if you sit there and watch like females play, it's still pretty interesting.
It's interesting, yeah.
if you take out what you're looking for, like when you watch an NBA game,
you're trying to watch dunks and like all this it's not going to be like that.
Yeah, you're going to be bored out your mind. But if you're watching the player specifically and trying to see how the game is being played, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
They were making fun of some girls' basketball game. It was a college game, and there was like a bunch of turnovers back to back to back, and then a bunch of missed layups, and they were like, "This is why we don't watch girls' basketball." But I was like, "That's one part of the game."
Yeah. Well, I think it's so funny. Like if you watch consistently, like sports and all that stuff, they so often look for the negative things that happen in women's sports instead of the positives. Like you'll see the highlights of what they did wrong, but you won't see like a really great game where like there was just so much action and team effort. So I feel like it's definitely improved since like over the years. Like it's kind of getting better, but there's still like a war between the sexes when it comes to athletics.
I think the biggest thing recently was what's her name? Rapinoe. Can't think of it. The soccer player.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, they were. A lot of people were talking about her, and which it was like a lot of political stuff. I'm honestly not even really familiar with it. I actually posted it on Instagram, I think, Instagram or Twitter, and was asking people about it because I had no idea about it. But they were talking about the female soccer team trying to get paid equivalent to like what the men's get paid. Now I know it has a lot to do with like sponsorships and ratings and stuff like that. If people are watching, you're going to get paid more. If people aren't watching, you're not going to get paid as much. Do you think that that is going to get any kind of progress in the future?
I think that there is lots of room for progress. I think that, I guess, when you, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I know that as a little girl growing up, you have a different experience with what you're told you can achieve. And then I also realized that like I had a different experience as a very tall, muscular, strong woman where I had, people were like, oh, she's going to play sports, you know, but like if you don't have the same thing, like I feel like with a lot of little boys, it's like play baseball, you know, the encouragement. And then with girls, it's kind of like they get made fun of for doing some of the more aggressive sports. Like in high school, it was like, we don't want to watch basketball because they're not wearing spandex. They would go to the volleyball. You know, like it was all kind of sexualized in that way. And so I think that if people would kind of take the time to like understand the fundamentals of the sport instead of being so concerned about putting on a show, because there's a lot more to athletics in general than just the freaks of nature who can do crazy stuff. Like I feel like there is room for improvement. I feel like they will get there, and I feel like as there's kind of been more of a empowering time for women, that more women might be more likely to be like, well, I'll watch the women's sports. Like, you know, like, I want to support the women.
That's a very good point, because when people do talk bad about women's sports, there are very few women who are stepping up and saying, well, I like to watch it.
Right.
And I think if there was more, then that would make a bigger impact.
Yeah.
Because like Rachel, she barely likes watching sports, but she said that she didn't grow up like doing sports, but her family didn't help her like, hey, this is basketball. Right. Or, hey, this is volleyball or something like that.
See, I was like thrown into it. Like,
and that helps. Like
even
I don't think parents should force their kids to play anything, but I think they should force their kids to play something.
Yeah. I just think, like, you know, if you're going to be the most amazing chess player, you know, like, just something that's mentally stimulating, something that's a challenge, is going to make you try to be better. And, like, if you don't know how to, like, try to be better, I feel like you're not going to try to improve that much in life in general.
Correct.
Like, you need something that everybody needs to find whatever they're passionate about, whether it be chess, whether it be basketball, whether it be golf. You know, like, my parents didn't make me play basketball. They always were like, it's your decision, but if you start the season, you're going to finish it. Like, it was never an option to quit. So it was like, you don't have to play, but if you start playing, you don't get to stop playing until, you know, the end. And like, that was something, I didn't really develop my confidence in sports until high school. I was kind of like, I was kind of like the type of person who needed to feel needed in order to really do well. Okay. So like, I played with a lot of amazing athletes. My AAU team, the majority of our girls went D1, like high level D1. And so I was like second, third string, and I wasn't upset about it because I was aware that there were better athletes on the team than me, and I just had to work harder. Okay. But I think that's something, and I'm like going off on a tangent in a different direction, but I think that's something that a lot of people don't always recognize, is that if somebody's better than you, it's not competition, it's like a level that you should try to reach. Yeah. And so I feel like, because I had that awareness that like, I'm not trying to compete with her, I'm just trying to be as, like, you know, like, level up to where I can play with her, you know, like that type of thing. Yeah. And so when it made me work a lot harder, and then I had a successful high school and college career because I rode the bench a lot when I was younger.
And just like you were saying, like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, just do something. And that's why I said, parents shouldn't make their kids play anything. They should make them force them to play something because it teaches you adversity. Life isn't always going to be cupcakes and rainbows. Like you have to go through something to be able to get through anything in life. That's why like a lot of top level recruits, you know, they'll go to their college team and then they don't play. Like you see it a lot in college football with quarterbacks. You know, you're the quarterback of the high school team. You're getting all the girls. Everybody in the city knows who you are, and you're pretty much running that city. And then you go to college, and there's already a top guy there, and nobody's paying attention to you. And so you're like, I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Right.
And what is that teaching you? if you go somewhere else just so you can be the top guy again, that doesn't teach you how to work through things. It doesn't teach you how to progress whenever things get hard.
Yes.
So that is one aspect of college ball that really frustrates me, because I like to see people go through adversity and deal with it, and because I like to see humans progress.
Yes.
Like humans in general. Like it makes me upset when I see people not trying to do better.
I agree. I would say the only thing that I would kind of be like, if, you know, type thing is like, I do realize that some coaches don't work well with, you know, like there's coaching styles that might not work well with like somebody who, maybe somebody's like a run and gun type player. I'm going basketball. But like, you know, like maybe run and gun, and then somebody else is very fundamental, runs the plays, likes doing that. Because like we ran Princeton at Christian Brothers. And Princeton offense is very difficult to learn. And it is very...
What is it?
It's like basically like every player can run any position on the floor, and there is a backdoor cut or a screen for anything that is any way you go. So whatever pass you make, there's things that you do for that pass. So nobody has to call a play. You just run it, and everybody has to be aware of what's happening, and it's like a clockwork. Like it's hard. It took us a while to figure it out. The men's team, the men's program was spectacular at it. Like we started doing it after them. They've been doing it for a while, and they were very successful just because it was so confusing that it was hard for other people, like other teams, to defend it. Because so we had people who came in who were run and gun type players who could not fit that system because they didn't like structured basketball. They wanted the sped up, and that's fun to watch too. People probably got bored watching them just like do the offense until they wanted you to run the offense until the clock got to like 8 seconds, and then try, it was like a very structured type of thing. So
now, you said it was called Princeton. Is it from the school Princeton? Oh,
yes.
Okay. So just like the school.
I believe. I don't know the facts 100%, but I believe it started at Princeton. That's why it's called Princeton offense.
Oh,
so
okay. That's pretty cool. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I do see a lot of that in other sports. I'm mainly a football person. I do watch basketball, but I'll see a lot of players, and they'll go into different kinds of offenses and stuff like that, and they might not fit that scheme, or the coaches will change their entire offense to fit a certain scheme with other players. With basketball, did you feel like you were a type of player to fit different schemes, or did you like, hey, this is me?
I was pretty flexible. I played in pretty much any type of environment. I would say I liked structure in some places, and I felt like there was a time and a place. I'm like a time and a place type person. So if it's like getting towards the end of the game and you need to come up 10, 12 points really quick, you don't need to run the clock down, and so but that also comes from a leadership point where our point guard or somebody be like, hey, we're changing this up. So it just depends, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, on this situation.
Cool. Well, for your future with your art design, so you said you were doing the graphic design first, and is that something that you feel like you need to put in a ton of time with, or is it something you were just like naturally like? I don't know as far as like art when it comes to, well, that kind of art when it comes to the actual creative mind, because a person's creative mind, like people can be naturally good. Like for music, I know music. I like art. I appreciate art, but I can't speak art. So for music, there are people who are just naturally can hear music in their head and they can just go with it. And then other people are like, I've been studying music for 12 years and I know how to do this. So with like the design part, is it learned for you, or is it for you specifically, or is it, you know, I've been studying it and now I'm good at it?
I was always naturally good at it. I'm not like a prodigy. I'm not like the people who can like draw like exactly what they, like photorealism art where it looks exactly like a picture is not what I do.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I couldn't develop it, but that's not really where, I'm very abstract. I do some things that aren't abstract, but I like figuring out a way to put emotion and things you can't see onto canvas, and then try to bring that emotion out of the people looking at it.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of where my brain is at. I do a lot of like custom abstract work where I do stuff where I've done it for a couple that I went to college with, that I will ask questions like, you know, what are some favorite quotes, what are some places you like to go, like what any, you know, specific like numbers or things that are important to you, like what are your nicknames, like, you know, just stuff like that. And then I do a lot of collage, so like I'll try to figure out a way to like artistically put it into the canvas to where it's all very, it looks aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
But then for the people who I made it for, they know how much thought and how personal it is for them. So I like things to feel very personal and connection and camaraderie and, you know, stuff like that.
Speaking of that, this room is really bare.
I got you.
Yeah, so there's this website. Have you ever heard of Canvas Freaks?
Yes.
So yeah, they're one of those ads that popped up on my Instagram.
What you need is a mural. That would be cool for the backdrop of all your podcasts.
So that's what I was honestly thinking.
Yeah.
If I could get you in here and do one. So I don't know what I want though. Like I kind of like the color, because we actually picked up a color from Home
You should
Depot.
get black and white.
Black and white. So just paint these walls black and leave the ceiling white?
No, like a black, like probably if you just
Or
gave
just
me
a black and
free
white
rein.
design.
Yeah, black and white design. Like paint it white and then do like a black design on top of it or something, so it's got like the, you know. And then that way if people were in color, you know, it shows off, you know, you can see it. It'll be pretty.
This is why I brought her on. Oh my God. Yeah, I was thinking about just putting up like stuff, but the mural sounds good.
It sounds pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to hire you. This is why I brought you here. What exactly are you going to do with your photography? I've seen you taking pictures of people, and they looked really good, by the way.
Thank you.
Are you just going to do, as far as like personal pictures, like people say, hey, I need some photos, or hey, I got a wedding coming up? What do you think you're going to end up doing?
So it's funny because my Instagram tag is like I am Sam Art, because I felt like because I do so many different things, I felt like art would just cover it all. And it's hard for me to, I feel like as an artist you're pressured to find your niche and then like obsess about it, you know? And so like I'm trying to figure out a way to be able to mesh like being a photographer and an artist and a design, you know, like just throwing it all out there. And I'm still working through social media and trying to figure out how to make it look professional and well thought out. But with photography, I've done a few weddings and it's not my favorite.
Oh, I've heard people hate
Yeah,
weddings.
it's just a lot of pressure and it's so long.
Yes.
Like it's a long process, and I enjoy doing engagement shoots, they're fun, but there's a lot of pressure there too because you have like a split second to get that little shot, and if you miss it, you get some stuff. So I don't know. I think I'm really kind of starting to go towards creative, like editorial type things. Like I'm really into like just portraits and trying to figure out how to make those more unique and creative and thought-provoking and like tell a story with it. I was mainly doing, before I was doing like, like family portraits and newborn photography. I do love the newborns, they're fun.
Really?
But I'm kind of trying to go in more of a creative route. I don't know, I literally am the most indecisive person. I change my mind every day.
I need to put you up against Rachel.
Yeah. Like, you should have
bad.
seen how long it took me to make my business cards, because I was like, do I want to go in this direction? Like, what do I do? Like, it was bad. So that's one thing I'm trying to learn about myself, is figuring out a way to like make a decision and stick with it, because I'm like a endless possibilities type person.
Okay.
So like,
there's so many options.
Right.
And I don't want to waste an option.
I need to feel like connected and like proud of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like as I'm going on this creative journey, which sounds so cliche, I am trying to figure out, what do I want to do? So, like I know I love photography. I love making people feel comfortable. I love the fact that like people get so self-conscious in front of a camera, and people critique themselves to no other, like I've experienced that, like where you're just like everything that's wrong, like, but I've never seen a pair of eyes that weren't beautiful, like, and that's one thing that I always try to do, is like capture people's eyes the best way that I can, because that's literally like the essence of the person is their eyes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out how to do that better every day.
I mean, what are you using as far as like ways to figure out how to do better? Like I was telling you about Peter McKinnon, I watch a lot of his photography stuff, and I look up, random people, but what's your sources?
I listen to a ton of podcasts. I've been on Creative Pep Talk lately by Andy J. Pizza, and he is amazing. He's an illustrator, and so like draws cartoons and children's books and stuff like that, but he was a graphic designer. He's been all over the place, and I followed him on Instagram, and I found out he had a podcast like 3 weeks ago. It was to show like how well I was, but like I've listened to it nonstop. It's so good, and it really, he's good about giving you direction. So my indecisive brain is like, oh, this is wonderful. Yes, and then I like Skillshare a lot.
Okay.
You can literally look up anything on Skillshare.
Yes. Okay.
It is amazing. Like I really love learning. Since college has ended, I still like I try to like make it my goal to learn something new, at least one thing new every single day.
Yeah.
So with Skillshare, like I feel like I'm still at school. Like I can like, there's some classes that maybe I didn't get to take that I'm like, okay, I can take a class on pastels and how to figure out, because my art is still very multimedia. So I don't just use paint, like I'll use pastels, I'll use spray paint, I'll use, I have like 100 like Life magazines from 1950s that another artist gave me that she wasn't, so like I just use this stuff, and so I just love finding out how to use different mediums and trying to figure out a way to fall in love with the process of all of this. So
have you ever heard of Skill Success? Okay, that's one you're probably gonna like.
Okay.
That's what I used to do, but they had like lifetime access where you paid, I want to say it was like $15 a month, maybe $10 a month, but it gave you access to all of their videos and stuff like that. And that's what I was doing. I did a project management course on there. I learned some like Adobe Premiere Pro and Photoshop stuff on there. It's got pretty much anything you can think of. They had like dog videos, how to train a dog, and pretty much anything you can think of. And it was like $15 a month, I think. Yeah. And it was legit. And then they'll say that a video might be, or a course might be like $100, and then like whenever like a holiday comes up, they're like holiday special, they're $10.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, why did I do that?
So if they ever have something where it's expensive, literally just wait like maybe weeks or a month.
See, like Skillshare, it's like I think $100 for a year subscription,
okay.
but like you have access to everything. So
okay.
yeah, and I'm gonna definitely check that out. But I think Skillshare might be specifically more like in like the creative, you know, that I know they do like cooking and they do like photography.
Yeah.
They'll do all the different types of classes, but there might be other stuff too. Because I know there's graphic design and stuff like that, but that's where my membership is right now. So that's what I'm figuring out. But yeah.
I think I looked at Skillshare. If it wasn't Skillshare, it was something else. But it didn't have like a ton of different things.
Yeah.
So, I looked at it.
And if you're going from like a non
things.
like art, like painting, it probably, you know, isn't going to be as beneficial.
Yeah. But I think that type of learning could take off if people pay attention. Because I don't want to say college is pointless, but it's unnecessary for certain professions.
Well, I think even like we are kind of going into this technological age where we have access to absolutely anything on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, like yes, there is a benefit of having a great academic professor, teacher, you know, like who's passionate about what they do, but so often you get the ones that aren't. And like when academics and education kind of always came naturally to me. I was pretty much like my mom would always be like, if there was a test 2 weeks away, my little sister would like start studying immediately, and I would wait till the day before and hope it was canceled. So like I've just always kind of been like I guess.
You made good grades though?
Yeah, like I'm pretty just naturally like good at that type of learning. So if it was somebody who I could feel wasn't really like invested or passionate or like trying to make it interesting, which doesn't sound good, but like it was harder for me to be really engaged in the experience. So like you said, like I think that we feel so pressured now to go to college, and then so many people, like I think it blows my mind that they will let kids who are not even like 18 half the time take out all this money in loans, and the student loans is the one thing you can't get away from. You know, like you can die and your kids have to pay it off. Like it just blows my mind. But if you had an 18-year-old who went to the bank and was like, I want a $20,000 business loan to start a bit, they're not going to let them do that. So like I think something needs to change there, because they're putting this next generation in debt before they can even get started. And I wonder, sometimes I just wonder if they're like, because we've done so much in like a corporate setting where like as an artist, I don't have access to health insurance and like affordable, you know, like there's no affordable option really for entrepreneurs. Yeah. And with like, it's like
it's more expensive.
It's like, I think for me to have decent coverage, it would be like around $400 a month. Which, you know, it sounds pretty expensive to me right now, but, you know, for somebody else it might not be, but, like, you know, like that just sounds, especially if you're getting started, that's a lot to do.
Absolutely.
But, I feel like we're kind of told that we're supposed to go and get a corporate level job and, like, do that for all these years, and then you're gonna, like, retire when you're 55 or 60, and then you can have the life that you always wanted. But I think that we're starting to figure out in this age, like there's more to it than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just something that I feel like like you said, as we continue, I think college is going to be less and less a necessity to be a successful, you know, in the real world.
Yeah.
So.
And really, like, I always tell people, if you're not doing what you want to do, then start. Yeah. Because if you're not doing what you want to do, you only get, as I said, you only get one life. So you don't want to look back and be like, man, I should have did this, or man, I should have did that, because you can just start doing it right now. Like I had on Amber Russell, and Amber, when we were talking, she said something I'll probably never forget. She said, it's like a lot of people wait for permission to do what they want to do. And it's like, nobody's ever going to be like, hey, all right, now you can start living. You have to tell yourself when you want to start doing something.
Yeah, and then even trying to be an entrepreneur, it's you get a lot of backlash from, like, I say backlash, like, my family is very supportive of what I'm doing, but at the same time it's like, maybe you should try to find a real job. And I'm like, this is a real job to me. You know, like, this is real. This is like what I love, and I might not be rolling in money right now, but like, I'm taking the necessary steps to be a successful artist and, you know, creator, and I am happy, you know, and I think it sounds cliche to talk about happiness, but if you aren't feeling completely confident and just sure that what you're doing is what you're supposed to be doing, then you're going to not feel satisfied in anything you get in life. Whether you do have a job that gets you millions of dollars a year, like, you're not going to feel satisfied because money doesn't fix it at the end of the day. Having that title doesn't do anything. It's you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always trying to find, you know, people who are doing what they love. That's why I wanted to have you on so bad, because I was like, this is somebody who, you know, you didn't have a ton of followers and you didn't have like this major collage of stuff, but I could tell you were doing something that you were interested in. And that is something that a lot of people just don't grasp. It's like, okay, you're not rolling in money, but you're happy.
Yeah.
You're enjoying it.
Yeah, and like, also, like, especially when you're building like something, it doesn't happen overnight. And I feel like we only hear about the overnight successes and the people who went viral and stuff like that, but it is a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come quickly, and it's not going to be easy. And I think that so often, like, my mom was really, she always was like, the world doesn't revolve around you, Sam. You know, like, she was just always reminding us that, like, you know, like, it's not all about you. And I think when you are told that, like, when you're given a more, you know, when you feel like there's more importance to you, then I'm trying to figure out how to say this, because I don't want it to come off the wrong way. But when you have like an inflated sense of self, you think that this stuff is going to be given to you, and nothing's going to be given to you. You have to work for it.
Yeah.
So I'm aware of the work that I'm going to have to put in to be where I want to be, but I can see it, and I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
But it also just depends on your attitude.
Yeah.
Because I'm the type of person where, like, I go do stuff. Like, like with my music and everything, I bought the equipment and I learned it because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't wait for somebody to be like, hey man, this is what you're supposed to do. I just figured it out.
Yeah.
And let's see, I've been doing it since, I think, like January 2017 is when I like really started to comprehend like the music industry and everything like that. So I haven't been doing it long.
Right.
A lot of people I've run into, they're like, man, I've been making beats since I was like 12 and stuff. I'm like, Jesus. But being able to have that kind of attitude, that go-getter type of attitude, even like that frustration of not doing well should motivate you. That shouldn't make you depressed. It should make you more hungry to be able to succeed in life. Because that's why I say, like, kids should be able to go through adversity. Your first real adversity shouldn't be when you get older.
Yeah.
That's going to devastate you.
Yes. Yeah.
If you could do something that you haven't done yet, what would that be?
I really want to travel. Like,
Where have you been?
I've been to a lot of different places in America.
Oh, where you live?
I've only lived in Tennessee. Yeah.
Oh, just Tennessee.
I've traveled to over like 17 states, like playing basketball. So I've seen a lot. I just didn't really get to like immerse myself in like the way that they lived there. I'm very interested in culture, very interested in the way that different people live and interact. I think I was like my senior year of college when I first took anthropology, and it blew my mind. Like, I was like, this is amazing, you know? And I just think that that's something that I would enjoy doing, is learning about other cultures' arts and like what they find motivation in, and like what inspires them, and like what their methods, you know, like I'm interested in all things human
Yeah.
and creative and psychological. Like that stuff is very interesting to me. I've been to Alaska for a basketball trip, and that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, places I've ever seen. I lived, and I don't really remember it, but I lived in South Korea for a few years when I was little. And
Why were you
I
there?
would love, my dad was teaching English on a military base.
Oh, wow.
So we moved over there, and they were missionaries.
Okay.
And
Was it, what's the name of that base?
it was in Seoul.
Okay. There's like,
Wait,
Kunsan? Or
I'm sure when you say it, I'm gonna be like, yes. Because
I was in
it
the
was
Air
like, it was
Force,
like 2.5 to 4.
Okay.
So, I mean, 2.5 to 4.5. So, like, it was like a very, I have small memories about like the apartment and like where I went to school, because I went to school there for a little bit, and stuff like that. And we have a ton of pictures, and sometimes that brings stuff back. But I would love to go back and kind of just see, you know, what comes back. Because, your brain changes a lot in all those years, and you just never know what's tucked away in there that you just don't remember. So, yeah.
Where else have you traveled to?
Just the United States with, I mean, like, pretty much everywhere in the Southeast.
Okay.
All the way up to, like, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, North Carolina, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and then all down
And that's all from playing ball?
playing ball, yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I have been to, outside the States, just Canada and Ecuador. And Ecuador was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I was, let's see, I was in Quito. That is the capital. So we flew from, I think, Texas to Quito. And then from Quito, we ended up staying in this village called Sakua. And it's that right there, just being with those people, life-changing.
Yeah.
I think as Americans, we have
We're
this,
spoiled.
that doesn't even cover it.
Yeah.
And then also we have this perception of like everybody is just completely beneath us. But like, so I was walking around in the village of Sakua, and there was just like kids with, wearing t-shirts, shorts, no shoes, stuff like that. And I'm like, man, these are those kids that are on those commercials where they're like $1 a day.
Yeah.
Can save this family. I'm like, I'm literally
Well,
can just hand them $1.
Yeah, but it's literally like, what was it? It was most people live on like $1 or $2 a day. Like, and then it's just hard to.
People are spending $8 on Starbucks coffee.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I bet that was life-changing after that.
It is.
I bet it makes you experience a lot more gratitude for everything you have here.
It does. Even like, so we had some bubbles, and we were just like blowing bubbles for these kids, and they're going crazy, ballistic. Like they've never seen bubbles. They probably hadn't seen bubbles before. But just that experience right there makes me just value what I have here in America. But I do want to go out and experience like other countries. Like even, so I mean, yes, I'm black, African American, whatever, but I don't feel like, I'm not one of those type of people that like hates white people and hates all other races because they don't treat black people correctly. I feel like I do want to go back to Africa. I'm saying that, but I feel like I want to go to Africa just to experience what real Africans are like. Like I don't feel a true connection to Africans just because I don't know anybody from Africa. Like I'm not, a big, have a big connection to people from Africa. But I do want to experience that just as a, I know it sounds kind of weird, but I feel like, I feel like I'm the type of person who doesn't, like, I literally don't see color. Like I don't see, if I'm around white people, I don't see them as a white person. If I'm around black people, I don't see them as black people. I just see them as a person.
Right.
And so, I want to, feel like outside looking in to like people in Africa, because that's where they say all humans originated from, and those people haven't left.
Well, I mean, I heard something the other day, and it was talking about how with with white people, and I believe, like, you know, in white privilege, I've experienced it, and I think that, you know, we have the privilege of knowing where our ancestors came from, and you hear so
Have you
often.
done like your what's it called?
I have not
Genealogy
done.
or
I
whatever?
have not, but like I have family members who have, and I know like there's like a lot of like Scottish and German, European stuff like that, and then like some Native American. But you hear so often people saying that they brought the slaves over from Africa, but they didn't. They brought over teachers and doctors, and you don't know. You know, they brought people over, but we're still insensitive to a lot of those things, and I am always trying to educate myself and figure out, you know, ways to acknowledge and bring to light from being from the South, living in the South my whole life. There was a lot of subconscious biases that I didn't understand or realize that I had until I was in college.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow. And then I dated a black man, and we've been dating for almost 4 years. And
How's the fam?
Huh?
How's the fam?
Oh, everybody's good. Like my family, I will say, they were always like, we weren't a mixed cultural family. It was everybody was white, but they were like, we would rather you date somebody who treats you right than date somebody, like, and even saying that, I'm like, you know, like, I hate even saying it.
Yeah.
But that's the way they saw it, and I think a lot of the issues that we have are lack of education, lack of understanding, lack of empathy.
Okay.
And I was always playing basketball it was predominantly black girls, and when you are around the family, like, you know, like I would say something and not realize that it was insensitive. And it was always the moms that were like, Sam, you can't say that. And I was like, oh, okay, and like I would that isn't okay. And then I would try to dissect it and figure out what I did and where that came from.
Yeah.
And I know we have so much further to go, but I think it's amazing that the conversation is starting, and that, like, to the point where people do get defensive and upset, and the thing is you have to admit that to yourself that you may not have always been right, and until you can accept that, you're not going to be able to move forward in the way you're looking at everything.
So you said you grew up like an hour east of here?
Yeah.
Okay. So Memphis is like predominantly black people. Were you from? Was that mainly white people?
It was mainly white people. Yeah. It was like a really small southern farming town with like one stoplight.
Did you have any black people that you went to high school with though?
No. So like I was homeschooled until I was in 8th grade.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I started school when I was 15, and up until then I'd only been homeschooled, but we traveled for basketball. So like, my mom was really good. She was a high school teacher at the public school where I'm from, which was predominantly black.
Okay.
And she was just heartbroken and disappointed that she had so many high school students who couldn't read, who didn't have a proper education or understanding, and she was like, I can't put y'all there. So she taught us herself. And then when my sister and I made the decision that we wanted to pursue college athletics, she was like, we understood that the recruitment process would not be easy from homeschool. So she put us in school, and it was culture shock at a small private white school. So I was very naive. I had to like kind of take in a lot of stuff and educate myself a lot. My dad was a Southern Baptist pastor, still is. So we kind of lived in a sheltered bubble for a long time. So we just there's a certain point when you have to realize that the world is not all rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
And I feel like we went a long time before we realized that. So, yeah.
That's rough. So, did you go through religious phases in your life?
Yes. I was raised extremely, extremely Christian through the Southern Baptist perspective, denomination. I went through a lot of, I consider myself just spiritual now. I think that when it comes to religion, there's a relationship that should be between you and your understanding of God. And if you are relying on I'm trying to figure out how to say all this. If you're relying on the church to do it for you, which a lot of people kind of are, you're missing out on a lot. You're putting your faith in the hands of somebody else when it should be your personal, you're not talking to the church when you pray or when you're, whatever you're doing, you're supposed to be talking to God. And I honestly thought about this before I came here because I was like, I wonder if we get on this topic, how do we explain this? And it's so like deep, and I guess a lot of stuff happened when I experienced for the first time and made the acknowledgement that I had white privilege because something happened, and I'm not going to go into detail about it, and it wasn't necessarily my fault, but I was caught up in something that had happened to other black athletes, and I had zero punishment, zero repercussions, and I was in something just in my head was bothering me about it, and I was like, part of me was happy that I didn't get in trouble, didn't get suspended, stuff like that, but then I was like, how is this fair? And this is before I was, dating my boyfriend, and a lot of stuff even went deeper when with that, but I've always been very empathetic, and I've always liked the feeling of connection with people, but I think that we sometimes are on a high horse let me backtrack. I feel like as a woman, I can understand what it's like to experience oppression as a woman. So, because I understand what oppression feels like in a way, I have the empathy to understand that black people are mistreated a lot in this country, and the way things work. And so that realization kind of got me on the questioning everything at that point. I was like, is there a system here? What's happening? Why is this going the way it is? Why are we constantly at war about this when it's factual? We're all asking, does it exist? Does white privilege exist? But it does. I've never had to feel fear or when I get pulled over at night, never quite, but then my boyfriend got pulled over at 2 a.m, and they took him to jail, to 201 Poplar, because his car fit the description of somebody who had robbed a gas station, and he didn't look like the guy at all. And I was never been so terrified, I was afraid for him, because I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, and that's something that I've never had to experience. And I don't think people, I think that until you experience something yourself, it's hard to form an opinion on it.
Absolutely.
You can have a perspective, but you don't get to say that your opinion is law.
That's the difference between sympathy and empathy.
Yes.
Is being able to, you've been through it, and you know how to actually empathize with somebody.
Right. For me, experiencing sexual assault, I had so many people telling me their opinion on it, their perspective, and expecting me to they had never experienced something, and then were telling me how I should emotionally respond to it. So from that experience, it kind of changed a lot of the way I saw things, and it's just a constant journey and growth, and trying to understand things better and figuring out easier ways to. I will never experience. I ramble a lot. I'm sorry, but I will never experience or understand what it's like to be a black person in America, but I can do my best to empathize, and I can do my best to be an ally, and I can do my best to stand up when something needs to be said or behavior needs to be corrected among people who don't have any type of understanding whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that's just what my journey has been in that.
And we can backtrack all the way back into the 60s. So the civil rights movement, everybody
Wasn't
knows
that
that.
long ago.
Yeah. Everybody talks about it being for black people because you had Martin Luther King back then, Malcolm X, and that movement everybody associates with black people. But civil rights wasn't about black people, it was about everybody's rights. And women too. Like, as black people, yes, we get oppressed, but we kind of beat women to the punch of president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really think that black women have it the most difficult out of everybody.
I mean, you're a woman and
you're black. And like, I can honestly say, like, I've never seen black women are just beautiful and special and strong and like just like
Absolutely.
You know, like I just think about Lizzo and like, you know, all these people who are just awesome, and then you just
Very
know
creative.
what they had to overcome and what they overcome every day, and how me, and like I'm trying not to like curse or anything, but like I've always been very like strong-willed, and I've been described as like bitchy and like aggressive, but it's just that I'm passionate.
Yeah.
You know? And like if you compare that to a male, they're like, oh, he's passionate, but if I do the same thing, you have to walk a fine line for it not to be bitchy.
Yeah.
And then you think about black women, like people automatically make these assumptions that, you know, like she's angry if she's passionate, or like, you know, like it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Like that.
Like, did you see the Serena Williams thing?
Yes.
Oh.
Don't even get me started. I was livid.
Yeah.
I talk like I bartend from time to time, and I would like get.
Okay, for people who don't know, so Serena Williams, you know, if you're watching this podcast, you should know who Serena Williams is. But phenomenal tennis player of all time, and she was in the match, and it was like a young girl. She had been what, like 18, 19?
Yeah.
She was
I saw
super
that.
young. Well, apparently Serena gave too much passion.
Yes.
She broke her racket.
She broke her racket. It was just, well, first of all, the I'm trying to say umpire. I don't know what the guy is. Ref. Yes, ref. He had already, he had a history of being kind of harder on women in general.
Really?
Yes, I think he had done something with her sister Venus, in the past, gotten hurt, penalized her, and then even when so many male, they just. You just see all the time where the male athletes would do the same thing and nothing was wrong with that. You know, they would I don't know the male tennis players. I really just started watching tennis because Serena was such a badass. And when I saw that, and then I would see the people who were she's so aggressive, all this stuff. Then there's other people putting photos up under Twitter of the men doing the same thing and nothing happened, you know? And it just it burns me up.
So yeah, Serena, she basically got in the ref's face about it because she was upset that he had cost her a point.
Yeah.
When she felt like she didn't do anything wrong, she was just being passionate during the match, and she just kept saying, "You stole a point from me, and you need to apologize."
Yeah.
She kept telling the ref, "You better apologize."
Right.
And she ended up losing the match, and she apologized to Osaka, right?
Right.
She apologized to the winner because she felt like she stole that moment from her.
Yeah.
And Serena felt bad. But at the end of the day, Serena felt like that ref was
targeting her.
Yeah, was literally targeting her because she was a woman, maybe even because she was a black woman during that match. And it was a pretty controversial topic for a while.
Well, I'm all for strong, passionate female athletes, so I'm biased. But when I watched it, I was just, because I watched it live, I was I'm having a flashback to it because I was at a bachelorette party in Florida when it was on. And I remember just being so sad for her because it was an act of passion. You know, she wasn't being disrespectful. It was just, you're allowed to feel these emotions in sports because that's what it is. It's literally a competition.
Yeah.
And I feel like they try so hard to make her fit in this box where she has to be, respectable and not step on anybody's
They want
toes.
to be cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Everybody look like this, do this.
Yeah, and then they even, I remember it was controversial because she was wearing the cat suit that Nike had custom made for her because she had had a hard pregnancy. And it was making her, it was helping, I don't understand all the science behind it, but it was supposed to be beneficial for her body after she had gone through childbirth. And then the French Open wouldn't let her wear it because they said it was like not feminine enough or something like that. Like she was supposed to wear a skirt.
Yeah.
And it's just like stuff like that. It's like, it's 2019.
Yeah.
Like, why are we going to like not let one of the greatest athletes in the world wear something that's not provocative, not, you know, like not taking away from anything.
Yeah, she was fully covered.
Yeah.
It's not like she was wearing freaking
And even if she wasn't,
shorts and stuff like
you
that.
know, even if she wasn't,
Yeah.
it rubbed me the wrong way. So
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. But that was the epitome of where we're at with females in professional sports. And I thought it was something that, I mean, it did get a lot of attention, but maybe not even enough.
Yeah.
Like it should have been handled in a more, I guess, a bigger stage. Because, I mean, Serena seemed like she wanted to push it away because she was like, at first, you know, she apologized to Osaka for what happened, but I think she was in the right, in my opinion. I don't think she did anything wrong. Yeah, she broke her racket, but how many times has, God, what's his name? McEnroe, John McEnroe.
that was him. He was at it multiple times. And it was like I think he had gotten in the ref's, they had pictures of him getting in a ref's face and nothing was done about it. So like, you know, like it's just very double standards.
Absolutely.
So.
And so there is have you heard about the female kicker? Or she's a soccer player. She was on the women's soccer team, but she was at the Eagles and I think the Ravens NFL practice, and she was kicking like 50-yard field goals. And they were saying that she was trying to get on the NFL team, and everybody was going crazy about it. But I was like, I mean, if she
She's
can
more consistent.
if she can do it,
Yeah.
sure, why not? But they said that there were some teams that were actually kind of interested in it, but I guess we'll see. I know there's been NFL female referees, and
There's like an NBA female assistant coach, I believe.
yes, and I think there's an NFL assistant coach. I'm not sure, but I think there is. Do you think that those barriers, as far as like, so we haven't had a head coach, we haven't had a professional, I don't think we've had a professional women's head coach in a men's sport. Do you think that will change?
I do. I think we're going in the right direction when it comes to all that. I think that I really am interested, like again, in psychology and the power of the human mind. And I think that if you have a people group in general, that their whole lives you tell them that they're not as strong, they're not as good, they're not as athletic, they're not as talented.
Yeah.
They're gonna believe that. It's like the 4-minute mile thing. You know, like they said it was impossible until it was done, then everybody could do it.
Yeah.
So if you're telling women that they're not capable of being as successful, you're you know, I'm trying to think of the right word, you're suppressing something.
You're limiting their abilities just by telling them they can't do something.
So I think that as we're kind of, you know, like even I think about the Nike commercial, the Serena Nike commercial, you know, like just the fact that they are really doing a good job in the athletic gear, you know, commercials of showing female roles, showing that women are being these successful model athletes, that like women can try to, you know, meet their standards, meet that level of competition. And men and women aren't identical, but they do have, there should be the equality, you know, option.
Yeah.
And I think that like when you're telling, like a lot of it comes down to education of men. I think that a lot of men, especially in the South, I think it might be a little more progressive in other areas, but it is so much still that like, especially in like the strict Christian households, that you're supposed to be the support, like, you know, like you're supposed to be the helper, the partner, like it's never the equal.
Yeah.
You know, it's always like you're below a little bit.
And I mean, even like Christianity, that's like pretty
Any,
much what the Bible
any
is
religion though,
saying.
like really any religion suppresses women
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah,
like,
like-
or at least the conservative religious views
Yeah.
is going to suppress women's strength,
Yeah.
and I think that causes men to feel emasculated when a woman is in charge of them.
Yes. Yeah.
And until we can do a better job of explaining that because a woman has more knowledge about something or that she is in a position of power does not take away from your identity or as a male.
Yeah.
Like it's just something that I've seen, has kind of been like a repeating pattern.
Yeah. But one thing that I really want to see is, like I was saying earlier, is more women pushing for younger females to be in those positions.
Mm-hmm.
For more role model women to be teaching young girls
Mm-hmm.
how to do this and doing stuff like that. Because I mean, how many times have you been to like any kind of mechanic place and saw a female mechanic?
Right.
Or how many times do you think about a scientist and you picture a female
Right.
as the scientist? You know what I mean? So, or surgeons.
Mm-hmm.
Most of when you think of a nurse, everybody
Yeah,
thinks of a female.
female.
Because they're the assistant. They're
Right.
not the one in charge.
Yeah.
So just if we had more people, more females who were in those top positions, guiding other like young
Mm-hmm.
females to be more like that, I think that'll increase the numbers.
And I
drastically.
think we are on the right path in that way. You even think about government and how rare it is to see black or women like governors and mayor, and it's getting better, but
Yeah.
especially down here, like you think about the majority, it's like old white men.
Yeah.
And we're kind of becoming a nation that not everybody relates to old white men. It's
Yeah.
just very they're kind of out of the loop now.
Yeah.
So it's it's time for women and everyone to
Yeah.
be like, I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna to do something. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
make a change. And I think that it also comes down to believing that there is room for improvement.
Mm.
Because if you feel hopeless, then you're hopeless.
Yeah.
There's nothing's gonna get better if you don't think it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think about that a lot.
So what do you think about first of all, do you know any trans people?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think, do they play any sports?
I don't know any trans athletes, no.
That would
Yeah.
make this better. So a big deal has been, specifically, do you watch MMA by any chance?
I used to, but I have not in a while.
So there was this chick who, former male became female, dominating, dominating, and but she ended up going against one of the best females, and she got beat pretty bad. One thing that I've been hearing, and I completely agree with, is don't separate. Don't tell trans people they can't compete or they can't do anything. Just put them in their own category.
Right.
So in the Olympics, if you have somebody who was formerly a male and now they're a female and they're just destroying everybody in their sport, don't just tell them, hey, this is kind of ridiculous, you can't compete. Just put all the trans people in one category and then boom, now they're all competing on the same stage.
See, I need to educate myself more about this. I think it's hard to really form a thoughtful opinion, again, with something I haven't experienced. Because I've never not felt fully identifying with who I am and with my gender, with my color. I've always felt who I am.
Yeah.
But I do recognize that biologically, I think women have, so from the men's muscle mass, women have 90% of the lower body and 60% of the upper body. So there are biological advantages to the male muscular system that women don't have. You know, like it's just hard because you want it to be inclusive, you want there to be fairness, and you want people to feel comfortable and supported.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to discourage women from competing because they feel that they're not I don't necessarily know if I think that there should be a different group, but it's just hard to really wrap my head around, because you don't, it's almost like just as not oppressive, I'm trying to think of the right word, but just as singling them out to put them in their own group than to tell them you're not allowed to compete to begin with. You know, like I could see how that would take away the team camaraderie if it's like I can't be part of the team. You know?
I feel like that's like, so if I'm a guy but I identify as a female, to tell me that I have to compete with the guys, you know, that might make me feel like, well, I want to compete with the females.
Right,
I identify as a female.
Yeah.
I think that whatever you are, like physically, it needs to be identified by a doctor first. It can't be like, you look like a chick, you're competing with the girls, you know what I mean? So I think if you're at that point where you're not sure on like where you are, I think a doctor should be brought into it, and not one of these Joe Schmo doctors.
But I also think like if they're not taking the proper hormone, like, you know, like if you're still like fully experiencing the male testosterone, like those levels, then you're going to be a different athlete than like if you're taking the estrogen, you know, like trying to transition. You know, like there's
Did you hear about that one like sprinter?
Yeah, that's what's been in my head the whole time. That's what blew me away. Like I was like, oh, my heart.
Okay, so for people who don't know, there was like this female sprinter, and she was dominating people. Wasn't formerly a man, completely female. Just so happened to have like high testosterone, right? High levels of testosterone. They were testing her, and they were like, hey, you can't compete anymore because you're just straight up physically and biologically better than the rest of these females. How does that make you feel at the end of the day, for people to tell you, hey, you're just better than everybody else? Stop playing. Thank you for what you did, but you can't do it anymore. That was crazy.
That is crazy. No, that's... It comes back to the whole, what were we saying? About if you don't experience...
like sympathy and empathy?
Not sympathy and empathy, but if you don't experience a challenge, life is going to be easy. And it's like, are y'all trying to make it easier for the people who just aren't as good as this shit? Like, they have to experience that it's hard, like that, you know, there is going to be people out there in the world that are like exponentially better than you at something. So
it's like, hey, Michael Jordan, you're too good.
Yeah, you're not allowed to play anymore. No, that's not okay. It's like telling people who are exceptional, like computer programmers, like you know, like all these other people are just way slower than you, and you're hurting your feelings, so you can't. Like it's just, I just don't necessarily think that that's fair or okay or morally right.
So that you bring that up, did you hear about the Asians having to do a different kind of test than everybody else at Harvard?
No.
Yes. So Asians have to take either a harder test or a different test at Harvard because there are too many Asians doing well at Harvard.
Oh my gosh.
No joke. And I was like, that can't be real.
That's crazy.
It's legit, and it seems illegal because that's discrimination by any means of the word. But they've been doing it because they're just saying that they want to give more people a fair chance to develop and be in Harvard. So if you're applying for Harvard and you're like Asian, you have to take either a different test or a harder test because they were trying to create more diversity.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's crazy. Yeah. That's really crazy. I know, I'm trying to think, it was several different cultures where the academic, the way people focus on academics is done a little differently than here. And I think like in India, I think that there's like a lot of really good education, you know, going on to where like they're like exponentially ahead of like a lot of the way that the American education system works. And I think honestly, if anything, it should just go to show that it's time to change the way that our school system works. Because not that Asians have like a different, like I feel like we're all capable of achieving greatness. But if you're not being told that you can achieve greatness, again, it comes back to the power of belief, then you're not going to think that you're capable of that. If we're always told that Asian people are smarter, then you're going to be like, well, I guess I'm just not going to be, like you're limiting yourself from the get-go. So, like, I think a lot of that really just shows that maybe they should be changing the education system instead of telling them that they have to pass a more difficult exam.
Like, so what? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, back when, I think it was one of the world wars, like, we were taking all these, like, German scientists. I can't remember where Tesla's from.
I can't either, but I remember looking it up not too long ago because I watched the little Tesla video. It was like from like a couple years ago or maybe a year ago, and then it just kind of got popular on YouTube. And it was like when he was releasing the Tesla 18-wheelers and stuff like that. But he just blew my mind in it, so I was like, oh, I need to find out more.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is brilliant, and I forgot where I was going with that, so what were you saying?
But yeah, basically, like, you know, back in the World War times, we were gathering all these different scientists from different places because, you know, everybody wanted to make like nuclear bombs and stuff like that. And for some reason, the German scientists were like
just ahead.
Yeah, they were like black athletes now. Like they were just dominating their specific niche. So I don't see how it's a bad thing. As humanity, we should take advantage of what people have. Okay, black athletes, like, we do well in sports. That doesn't mean that you should, you know, hey, you're doing too good. We need to get some more white kids in here, or some more Mexican kids.
I think if anything, it just should make, like, just because there's a natural athleticism, because I can't remember what I was reading, but it was talking about there's like a gene. I'm learning a lot more about science. I wasn't interested in it. I'm trying to get better at this. But there was a gene or something that a lot of Olympic athletes have. And like those crazy next level athletes, they have like something a little bit different in the way that their body functions. And it was like a lot more black people have this function than a lot of other races, or not races, ethnicities or whatever. And just how all of that, we are all different, and some groups of people have like crazy talents that, like, you know, like there is gonna be a difference in all the different groups. But like you said, you should want to take advantage of the strengths and figure out ways to like bring all the strengths together instead of everybody focusing on, you know, the differences. I don't know where I was trying to go with that. But.
I mean, in my opinion, if somebody's really good at something, again, take advantage of that and then learn from that. Like, what are they doing that everybody else isn't doing? And so I was reading something. It was talking about how, I want to say like 2050, like I think the majority of America by about 2050 will be mixed races. So like, you know, most people who are black aren't like straight from, like, your lineage isn't just in African. Like, you have either, you know, some white person was in your family or some Native American or something like that. It was saying like by 2050, the majority of people, so right now the majority of America is white people. It was saying by like 2050, majority of people in America will be a mixed breed. Like you'll have one parent who's one thing and another parent who's another majority race. So I think that'll be an interesting time to live in my opinion. I think that'll be awesome as far as like Mexican food. Like, I love eating some Mexican food. So like, think if majority families are completely different cultures, like food will be better. Music will be better. Like, everything's going to be different. Everything's just going to be better because we're taking advantage of what other people's cultures are and not suppressing it because, like, oh, you do that too good. We don't want that mixing with the rest of our stuff. So that's one thing I look forward to.
I agree with that. I think that just from from when I was younger, seeing like there, I feel like I've seen a huge jump in like interracial relationships in the South more so. My boyfriend and I went to Chicago a couple years ago, and that was probably the most like comfortable I felt than anywhere I've ever been, because it was just like everybody was just like, we're cool with it, you know, like whatever, we're cool, and that's not something you always get in the South. So
you gotta move.
I know.
You gotta move.
I know. That's my goal. When my lease is up, I have like a little vision board, and I'm like, June, I'm out of here.
So if you can move anywhere, where'd you want to go?
I love the ocean, but I'm not really sure if the ocean is for. I'm really between like going to like Colorado or Wyoming or something on like not Wyoming, Washington.
Washington.
Or, you know, something over there on the West Coast, maybe even California. I'm kind of like I like Memphis because it's a really big small city, you know? Like it's like, for me, coming from my little town, this is big.
Yeah.
But I realized it's not. When I went to Chicago, my mind was blown. I was like, wow, this is huge. This is big.
Yeah.
But I like the pace of Memphis. So I feel like in like a big, large city, I might not do as well. But yeah, I'm thinking either ocean or West Coast, and maybe I'll go one and just see how it goes and be like, oh, maybe I'll try something different. But
is your boyfriend from here?
yes, he is from Memphis as well.
So it's no like, hey, let's move back to where your family is.
Yeah, it's here.
Okay.
So.
Well, I have lived just in Alabama, and I lived in North Dakota for like 3 years, and that's where I met Rachel. But the program that I went to learn the stuff that I do, it was in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And so I was there from January to April. The worst time. It was colder there than it had been in like 10 years. Yeah, it got down to
I don't like cold.
Yeah, it got down to like -40 when I was there. But Milwaukee's pretty nice though.
Yeah.
It's a good diversity and stuff like that. It was a good area. But let's see. North Dakota was that was an experience.
Yeah. Was it very white? Like.
Oh yeah. The snow and the people.
Yeah.
It was But let's see. So me and Rachel went to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. That was a very beautiful place. That was awesome. We really wanted to go to Glacier National Park. That is in Montana, I believe. And everybody says that's like one of the most beautiful parks. Yellowstone's over toward that way, but I hear Glacier is better. And then, so I actually interviewed for the Owens Corning here. And then after I interviewed here, I had to take a flight. To Los Angeles because I flew in there, and Jesus, it's like a massive blood flu. But yeah, so I had to fly to Los Angeles, and I stayed on Hermosa Beach. That's where my hotel was. But I have a friend who lives in San Diego, so I went to go see him down there. So I flew there Monday night, got there late Monday night, and then I kind of toured around. The plant that I was interviewing at was in Compton, and so I drove around that area, and that was different. That was a little different, but I definitely enjoyed being over there, and I got to see the Coliseum, USC. I got to see it's like a Universal Studios or something over there. That was really dope. And what else did I see?
Where were you from in Alabama?
I'm from Northeast Alabama, so
Okay.
Aniana is the name of the city. And I went to high school, I graduated with like 100 people. It was about 100 people. And how many people did you graduate with?
60.
60. Oh.
You knew everybody's middle name, last name, their parents' names, where everybody was from, their siblings' names, you knew everything.
God almighty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm from a small town, so. But to me, I like bigger areas, but not like too big. So Memphis
is great.
It's great. When I was interviewing over there in Los Angeles, I was like, this is cool and all, because I went to the beach. I went to Muscle Beach down there, and I started like taking pictures of people working out, and then they were like, hey, could you take some other pictures and video? I was like, yeah, sure. So I started taking pictures of them. It was like a bunch of young guys.
Yeah.
And they were like, here's some money. I'm like, no, you're fine. They're like, no, you got to take it. I'm like, all right, thanks.
Yeah.
And so just like that, that environment was just cool to be in. And then even when I went to San Diego with my friend, like I went to the beach and there was like some, I don't know if it was seals or whatever that was down there, but got to see those and I was like, I can do this all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the gas was like $4 or something.
Yeah.
And the cost of living is just so high. So I was like,
I think Memphis is like one of the most affordable in the
yeah, so that's what I was looking at. I was like, do I want this different lifestyle or do I want to live comfortable and then be able to do whatever? Because I can go visit Los Angeles for a week and then come back come back to Earth.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I thought about. So for you in your future, definitely think about somewhere that you feel comfortable. I think probably that Colorado area, they say a lot of people are like fit over there and they like healthy lifestyle and stuff like that. So I think that'd be good for you. But just find a place I think that you feel comfortable first and then go to places that you you know want to have fun, want to live, because that like people don't really understand the concept of America. Like we're basically multiple countries. Our states
it's like a whole
are like
different
multiple
lifestyle
countries.
when you go from like south to Midwest to west coast, east. You know, like you can tell a huge difference. It's like a whole different lifestyle.
It's like going from Germany to the Netherlands or going from Spain to Ireland. You get that all in America. But yeah, that's why I really enjoy, like me and Rachel, I think have been to like 30-something states.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, just by driving around, then we'll stop and we'll check it out and then we'll just keep going. So we do want to like continue to go out of the country. Like we've been to Canada, we've been to Winnipeg, and we really want to go to like other countries. But take advantage of that, as you were talking about, like looking into like how people educate and just how people function in other countries. I don't think as Americans we really value that as we should, but it's awesome.
It is. It's amazing.
All right, well, it's been great having you on.
Yes, thank you so much.
It's
2 hours.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good.
It flew by.
It did. It did. Well, maybe might have you on another time.
Yeah.
Get you to
Decorate
do something.
the wall.
Do something.
I
to
really
this.
would like to. So.
Yeah, no joke. I had to see about that. But yeah. What's your plans? What's next? You said you got goals. What's goals?
Yeah.
What's next?
I'm trying to do some more murals. I've done 3 and 2 in Memphis, 1 in my hometown. I have like 2 more lined up.
I saw you did the one at your high school. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you. It was exciting to get to like do. I was like, always wanted to draw on walls, but couldn't.
Yeah.
And so like getting the opportunity to paint something like inspiring where I used to have so much inspiration for my sport was a fun experience. I'm really just trying to figure out how I want to expand my art business. What kind of it's hard to like. It's so much I could ramble on for another like hour and a half. So I'm just really just trying to figure out what inspires me every day, what is empowering, what people like, because that's important too. If you want to sell it, people gotta like it. I have an art show I'm preparing for in November, so it's going to be in downtown Memphis at the Vault, G. Patterson. So I'm excited about that. It's my first art show since my senior thesis. So like I had a senior thesis art show and then this one. So
awesome.
I'm excited.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if anybody needs some art, definitely hit Sam up. What's your Instagram name?
It's at iam.samart.
Cool.
So.
And I'll probably have her do some stuff in this room.
Yeah.
And so anything else you need to plug in or?
I think that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I know. I'm gonna work on that. I'll figure something out.
All right. Thank you for everybody for listening, and tune in next time for whoever I have on. Don't know who it is. Maybe it might be somebody.
I would love to come back. So.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Hey, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Romera Records Podcast again. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. That subscribe button lets me know you're actually paying attention to the podcast. All right. So click that little red button, subscribe to the channel. Like the video that you watch, and also leave a comment. Leaving a comment lets you interact with me. If you have some questions about things that are said, I'll answer them. I promise. It's what I do. It's kind of my job. So, hit subscribe, like, comment. Let's keep it rolling.